So let's talk about a partnership that was so incredibly successful, it almost destroyed one of the biggest brands on the planet. We're going to dive into this wild paradox of how a superstar collaborator can become your greatest asset and then, suddenly, your biggest liability.
And it really all comes down to this one question, right? How can the very thing that makes you a fortune, the product that everyone wants, how can that also become the single biggest threat to your company's survival? It sounds crazy, but it happens.
Okay, so to really get what went wrong, we first have to understand the sheer scale of what went right. This was not just any old brand deal. The collaboration between Adidas and Kanye West was a complete cultural and financial juggernaut.
And when I say juggernaut, I mean the numbers were just staggering. We're talking about the Yeezy product line generating billions with a B in revenue. It wasn't just a success, it was an absolute cash-printing machine. And that huge financial stake is so important to remember because it's what made the final decision so incredibly difficult.
But, it was never just about the money. The Yeezy brand became a true phenomenon. It was this perfect storm of cash and culture. It literally shaped what people wore, what was cool, and it built this massive, dedicated following that was all tied up in Kanye's personal brand. But here's the thing. Underneath all of that success, a massive risk was growing, hiding in plain sight. It's this classic problem that pops up when a company ties its fate way too closely to one single really powerful partner.
And that brings us to this key idea, singular brand dependency. It's a fancy term, but what it really means is you've become so reliant on one partnership that if anything goes wrong with your collaborator, it becomes a genuine threat to your entire company. It's the business equivalent of putting all your eggs in one very, very famous basket.
So how do you even know if you're in this danger zone? Well, there are two huge red flags to look out for. First, a heavy concentration of revenue. I mean, when one product line is responsible for a giant piece of your income, you are financially exposed. And second, you start to see this subtle shift in the power dynamic. The collaborator becomes so influential, so important to the culture, that they, not the company, start calling the shots. They hold all the cards.
And this is the part that should keep executives up at night. The bigger and more influential that partner becomes, the more risk the main company is taking on. Suddenly, their reputation is your reputation. Their problems become your problems. That dependency basically creates a direct pipeline for brand damage right into the heart of your company.
And well, as you might guess, that hidden risk didn't stay hidden forever. It exploded into a full-blown crisis, forcing Adidas to face a dilemma that had no easy answers, only hard choices.
The whole thing detonated when Kanye West made a series of incredibly damaging public statements. And we're not talking about a small PR headache here. This was a massive reputational crisis that struck at the very core values Adidas said it represented. So imagine you're in that boardroom. It's an impossible choice. On one side, you have billions and billions of dollars in revenue just flowing in. On the other side, you have the very soul of your brand. Do you protect the money or do you protect your name? It's a brutal conflict between short-term profit and long-term survival.
In the end, Adidas made its choice. And this quote just perfectly sums up the cold, hard logic they had to use. Cutting ties was going to be financially painful. I mean, really painful, right on the bottom line. But from a strategic point of view, to protect the long-term health and identity of the entire Adidas brand, it was the only move they could make. It was absolutely necessary. So what's the takeaway from all this chaos? Well, this whole story gives us a really powerful playbook that any business leader can use to navigate their own high-stakes partnerships and, hopefully, avoid a similar disaster.
And it really breaks down into 4 simple principles. 1. Your brand's reputation comes first, always, no matter how much it costs. 2. You have to actively avoid leaning too hard on one partner. Diversify your portfolio, spread the risk. 3. Keep a close eye on those power dynamics. Watch where the money is coming from and who really has the influence. Don't let it catch you by surprise. And 4. You just have to be ready to make the tough calls, because sometimes the strategically right decision is the one that hurts the most in the short term. At the end of the day, it all comes back to this one central idea. Every big decision has to be measured against this question. Are we trading our long-term reputation and our integrity for a quick, short-term financial win? As this whole story shows, the answer always has to be no.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Take a good, hard look at your own most important collaborations, the dependencies in your own world, and ask yourself honestly, who really holds the power here? And more importantly, are you ready for the day that power decides to shift?